Okay. So can you guys all see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Let me minimize this. Okay, awesome. Okay, so how about you guys introduce you a little bit. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I used to be a research scientist, and later on, I changed my career to a Salesforce business analyst and administrator. But my real passion is photography, and I'm doing it professionally as a wedding and event photographer in my spare time. I've been taking a lot of wedding pictures, bar mitzvah, family portraits, whatever people hire me to do. So this is really my passion, and I'm glad I have chance to share my pictures and my experiences with you. So here's also my Flickr account. You can see some of my work and also my Instagram ID. Most of my work, they're private because those are from my commercial jobs. So I keep them private because they don't want to make it public, but some they do allow me to share. So you can see some of my work through the Flickr account. So this is about me. Can you guys briefly introduce yourself?
You guys can unmute yourself. Just say, who you are, a little bit about your background. Yeah. This is Huawei P30 Pro. So Cindy, right? Not the Lucy. Lucy. But the name does not match with the registration name, so it's a little hard. Hi, Lucy. Yeah. You wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm in Canada, Vancouver, and I just began to take a photo in January of 2019, just 1.5 years.
Ah, good.
Yeah, and it's the first time it's a Zoom meeting. So,
all right. Great.
So have you taken the previous classes? Because I believe for this series and the last one, so have you taken all the previous classes?
For the Zoom meeting?
Yes.
The first time.
Oh, this is the first time. I see. Got you. So you started taking pictures seriously a half year ago? Is that right?
Yeah, 1.5 years.
Oh, okay, a year and a half ago. Okay, okay, that's nice. So normally, like, what kind of pictures you like to take, and what you want to get from this class?
And it's like I just go to a several place. Go to Iceland.
Okay. Beautiful.
And, yeah, the main place, and also go to the United States.
Okay, nice.
And some of the place. And also go to the Banff.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful places.
Yeah, all those beautiful places. So I guess you're interested in landscape photography?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next person. Jen?
Me?
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and also what you want to get from this class, and your photography is more on like the landscape side or portrait, or like what style you have, and what's your interest in terms of photography, like mainly what you want to get to know. Yeah, so I can know you better, as I can gear this platform to what you need.
I do mostly landscape, some city, street photography. I'll shoot anything. I'm just completely obsessed for the last 3 years, and I'm just getting to the point now where I'm generally happy with the work that I do technically, but I'm trying to find my own style and bring some artistic flair to my work. So I guess what I'm hoping to get out of here is how to bring more than just perfection in the shot and getting it right out of the camera, but how to show some of my emotion and my soul and make it more artsy than just a record of what I saw.
Awesome. So is this the first class, or you already taken the previous sessions?
I just saw this one. I missed the other ones. I would have done probably all of them. I'm so sorry I didn't notice. I haven't been paying much attention to Meetup.
Well, I'm sure we have those sessions repeats, so you always get a chance to take more in the future.
Excellent, thank you.
Awesome, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. So the next one, the one with the green background, can I have your name?
That's our instructor from last time.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I get to know who you are, and I have basic ideas. So now we can get started. Let me.
There are more people who like muted or stopped their video. Do you guys want to share a little bit about your background? If you look at the participants, there are more people.
Oh, there are more? Okay. Yeah. I only see 4.
Yeah, most people, they stop their video.
Oh, okay. So yes, if the rest of people can let me know a bit more about yourself, that would be better. So would you like to? Can you hear me? The rest of the people who I don't see, but if you're there and like to introduce yourself and let me know a bit more about you, you can tell us a little more.
Sure, I can talk. Can you see me? My name is Wendy.
Yes, I can see you, Wendy. Hi.
Yeah. I'm actually an engineer by training. I'm still an engineer and doing the automotive design and all those really engineering side of the work. But I have great interest into art, so I have been taking all kind of photograph, maybe 10 years ago. And also I'm taking a drawing class, oil painting as well, because it's very interesting to me. Yeah, well, prior to COVID-19, every weekend I have 3 hours oil drawing classes for years now. So in general, I like travel, I like take pictures, and so not something particular, just it depends. Sometimes landscape, sometimes just shooting something on the street shots, or just look at a bird.
Awesome. Yeah. Good to know.
Multi-talented people.
Yeah, more of a habit.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so are there any more? Shall we just get started?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess let me make it a full screen so you can see it bigger. Let me see. Let me move this to the side. Okay. Let me minimize this. Okay. Right, so this is the next slide. So what makes a good picture? I think there are many elements, but it boils down to the following several points. First of all, it needs to have a main subject. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a person, an object. It could be a pattern that you like, a color you like, you know, any kind of interest point. And the first point, it seems to be simple, right? Whenever you take a picture, you think, of course, I'm taking a picture of something, right? Of course, I have a main subject. But actually, if you look closer, it's actually hard to get your feeling come across to the viewers. You think you're taking a picture of something, but if you show the picture to someone else, and they might not feel the same, and they might not see the same. So how to get your idea, your point come across, and how to lead the viewer's eye to what you want to express, like your main subject, how to make it the way you want it to be, right? So this seemingly simple point, it's actually not that easy to deliver, to express. So I'm going to talk about some ideas or some means to make your main subject the way you want people to see. And on top of that, after you have a clear delivery of the main subject, you need to build a story about your main subject. So those are the two fundamentals of a good picture.
Everybody except Cindy, please mute your microphone so we can hear Cindy only. Okay.
Thank you. So on top of those two, you add drama, you add atmosphere, mood through several means I'm going to talk about. Then it will become a better picture. And on top of that, you can use your creativity and make this picture uniquely yours, because we all want to go to some famous places. We want to take the Eiffel Tower, we want to New York or to take some pictures of landmark, but you don't want your picture to right? So a lot of people, when they look at my picture, they will say, oh, it's so beautiful. It looks like a postcard. I don't take it as a compliment, because I don't want my picture to look like a postcard. It's beautiful. I want it to look like uniquely mine, Even though I'm taking also the picture of Eiffel Tower, I want it to be my Eiffel Tower, not the Eiffel Tower on the postcard, right? So how to make it uniquely yours. I don't know if we get enough time to talk about the last point, but we're gonna emphasize the first several points.
Sorry to interrupt. I made you the host, so I don't get access to meeting other people. Can you mute the person who are still on? The mic still on. The Huawei, that one is still on. I couldn't mute. Can you mute? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mute her, yes. Okay. So now, this is what we want, okay? We want to make our main subject clear, and we want to build a story, and on top of that, we want to add drama, and then we want to be creative and have our own unique work. So how to do that? Next slide. Oh, too fast. Okay, so I think let me talk about the first point first, how to make your main subject clear. I think the most important way is go through composition. Using different ways of composition, you lead viewer's eye to your main subject and to make it clear, not only clear, but to lead viewer's eye to see your picture in the way you want them to see. A lot of times, different eyes seeing the same thing differently, and this is your work. You're not taking you're not you and our artist, even though you're seeing the same thing, but you probably have your own view. You want people to see it in your view. So, and then you need to use those means to take viewer's eye to see the way you are. So what is composition? Composition, I'm sure you already know about this term because you already have a lot of experience on photography. So composition, just to remind you, it's in a range of objects. So you can lead viewer's eye through your image and to see your main subject in the way you want them to see. So this is different ways of doing composition. I'm going to talk about all of those points. So the first point I want to emphasize is less is more. So I want to ask you a question. We all know, because I heard some of you talking about that you're doing both drawing and photography. So a lot of people know that painting and photography are quite similar. So can you tell me what's the main difference between painting and photography? Can anyone tell me the difference?
I think it's much easier for an artist who's sketching or painting to be able to bring entirely what they want the viewer to see, but with a photographer, we have to have some kind of reality based in it.
Exactly, that's very true. In other words, I think painting is doing addition and photography is doing subtraction. So painting, you start with a blank, with a white canvas, right? You start with a blank canvas and you're adding something on, right? So you're doing addition. And that's easier than photography because every stroke you add on, you don't have any distraction, right? You add whatever you want on it and it becomes the final product that you want. But photography, it's not. Photography, it's you already have everything there, right? It's probably like quite chaotic. And you want to take a picture of a chaotic environment, a world, and how to do the subtraction to bring attention to something you want to express from this chaotic world, right? So you're actually doing subtraction. This is the main difference. So I'll use my pictures here as an example. So I took a picture of this lotus flower in the pond. And since it's quite far away from me, so this is the picture out of my camera on the left. And you can see it's just an ordinary picture, right? It has a lot of things, right? The flower, the leaves and water, light, everything. And it's hard to bring people to the attention of what I want to express, and it's not artful, right? So after some treatment, before and after processing, on the right is the final product. And this final product not only the result of post-processing, This is what you would think, right? This is the most important is this is also the result of the moment when I take the picture. I thought it through. This is the result I want. So can anyone tell me, in order to make the picture on the right from the left, what you need to do? Of course, you need to crop, right? So what else you need to do? Especially important is what else you need to do before you take the picture. Can anyone tell me? Anything you can think of?
I guess the angulation is very important, right? You know, where you hold the camera, the leaf and the flower, the relationship of the two subject, you know, the angulation is quite important for the final frame.
Also the direction of the light, so you can see the texture of the flower and the texture of the leaves in the background.
Right, okay. Okay, let me tell you what I think is the most important. The most important is, I think, and playing less is more, because on the left, this is what I see, this is what I took because of the limitation of my lens and the distance from my main subject. I can only take a picture like this, right? So I need to get rid of the chaotic background. I need to make the background cleaner, right, to emphasize my main subject. So how to make it cleaner? Of course, cropping is one way, right? And also get rid of the messy background, make the background cleaner. It's another way. So how to make the background cleaner? Obviously, you can see I did some processing to darken the background, right? And that's one way, and a more obvious way. But there's another way, is when you take the picture, I keep in mind the exposure differences, right? So you can see the picture from the left, the brightest spot is on the flower, right? So even though you see the leaves, but all those leaves at the exposure level, they're darker, right? So I utilize the difference in exposure to expose on the brightest spot of the flower using spot metering. And in this way, I make sure that my main subject has the brightest, has the highest exposure level. And everything else is underexposed. And in that way, through the emphasis of post-processing, I can make my main subject, which is the flower, most obvious, right? So this is a way. If you do not spot metering, if you use like a range, like the other types of metering, you wouldn't achieve this this effect. And also there's another condition, because there are a lot of flowers in the pond. To be able to get this effect, you need to look for the flower that has the highest exposure. So the light coming through leaves and coming through trees, right? So the light could have some spot brighter than the rest of the spot. So in order to emphasize your main subject, you need to look for the light where it shines on, right? So in my case, I want to take a picture, really emphasize the flower. So I look for the particular flower that has the highest exposure, and where the surrounding objects all have relatively low exposure. So in that way, I can make the flower most prominent. Is that clear?
I do have a question.
Okay, sure.
So when you mention you use the spot meter on the most light point. Usually we do that to avoid overexposure, right? This is kind of light white color. So if you do that, if you do the spot meter on the average meter or the spot meter on the round part, like the background, then the flower will be overexposure. So what you're doing now was correct. But my question to you is, why you have to look for the most bright object? Can I find, what if there is another flower looks really unique, very pretty, I want to do that. Can I still do that? Do I have to pick the most bright spot?
The reason I picked the brightest spot is I don't want any overexposure. Even though it's white, I still want the texture
Okay.
to show. Yeah,
sense.
that's
Okay.
why I meter
Right,
and,
right.
and also use, you know, spot metering to avoid
Right.
overexposure, right?
That makes perfect sense. So for the spot meter on the most bright point, that's exactly my experience as well. But the focus point, it depends on your interest. That's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my second question. On these lotus flowers, it's really pretty. Well, if you have choice, I know it's far away, where would be the focus point, the front petal or the back? Where would you like to be focused on?
I focus on not really on the front petal, but in the petal, like more of like the second or the third
Okay.
layer. Yeah, you can take several pictures to see because it's hard to see the distance, right?
Right.
Yeah. And in this case, I focus on the center.
Okay.
And also, I don't use shallow depth of field. I actually use 8 or even 11.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes when you want to take a picture, you probably want to use like really shallow depth of field. But since this is far away, you know,
Makes sense.
and if you make it too shallow, actually you will lose the texture of all flower because
That's
I want
correct.
the flower clear back to front.
Yeah.
The whole flower to be clear. If you use really shallow, like
2.8 or 4.
yeah, 2.8 or 4,
Yeah.
you might lose you might make part of the flower blurry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for a little bit different purpose. Sometimes for the macro photos, if you're really close, you want to try that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My last question is why you make the, as of underneath the flowers, there is no branches. Why you intentionally make it? Did you crop this off or?
Oh, you mean
the flower?
here?
Yeah. Is it darker or you just feel like it's floating?
Right. Yeah. Well, I could have made it a bit brighter, but well, I just don't think this is my emphasis point. You know, the emphasis point I want people to see the flower and to see the leaves. You know, in the back. So I want to put the emphasis on what I want to express, and everything else just
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But in this particular case, I don't think anything wrong if you make it a bit visible. Yeah.
Hi, I have a quick question.
Okay, sure.
Because you're using a you're using f8, so the depth of field is pretty deep. So when you post processing, did you have to blur some of the background leaves?
No, I don't need to blur everything because you know, because of the exposure difference when I lower the exposure, when I did the post-processing, and those become really dark, and I further darkened them. So those actually, if you make the dark area brighter, you can see the leaves clearly, right? But since it's all in dark, so you don't really see them. Actually, the depth of field, it's okay because if you see this area, right? Can you see my pointer?
Yes, I can see your pointer.
Yeah. Those leaves are quite blurry, but those leaves probably further away because those leaves are this one, right? this is probably farther away as compared to this one. So all I want to emphasize is the flower and this one leaf, and everything else I don't want it to bring attention to.
Yeah, I think the lighting really makes the flower and the leaf above it very vivid.
Yeah, I think for this particular picture, lighting it's everything. So you want to look at, I actually took it 2 p.m. in the afternoon, with bright sunshine, but with it was cloudy. So you can always pick an area in the pond that only one ray of sunlight shines through, not like shine on everything. So this is what you need to do before taking the picture. You need to find the right spot and keep in mind what you want it to be afterward, and look for that perfect spot. So yeah, so I think this picture expresses my meaning of less is more, because with eliminating all the noises, you get a clear delivery of your main subject, and by playing the exposure differences, you can make a pretty mysterious effect, even though it's taken 2 o'clock in the afternoon under bright sunshine. And this is actually the same pond. I took another picture, and this time I went even more extreme. Okay, so I see that the brightest spot is the okay, so can I don't know how. Oh, okay. Okay, so this one I went even further. I only, when I took this picture, when I see the shape, this part reminds me of microphone, and the edge of the leaf remind me of the edge of skirt, dancing skirt. So I have a thought to make it a picture. I called it Let's Dance and Sing, because this is like a microphone and this is like a skirt. So to emphasize this idea, at post-processing, I almost, I went extreme. I make everything dark except the very edge of the leaf and the edge of this, what do you call this? Lotus root? Okay, just call it a lotus root. Okay. Yeah, lotus. Okay, so I went extreme. So in this way, you can see the idea of, it looks like a microphone and the edge of the skirt. And also in this way, I think it's more artful, right? So, because when Jen talked about that, you want to make your picture more artful. So I think this is a way, right, from like an ordinary picture to something probably a bit more artful.
I love that shot, I just have to say.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we got the idea of less is more, and this is another element of composition that I want to talk about, because our human eye get used to what we usually see, right? We're this height, and we see things from this angle. So in order to make it unique and different, you have many ways, right? You can use your lens, to create the depth of field. You can use, for landscape, you can use, you can use wide angle lens to create the dramatic distance effect. And there's actually a very simple way. You don't need expensive equipment. You just take your picture from a different angle, from a different position. It will instantly make your picture look differently. So I think a lot of objects like flowers, like insects, or even babies, right? They're at lower level. So we're used to take picture. If you take a picture of a flower, you're shooting from top down, right? So this is most people take picture of a flower, and for lizard you also take picture like from top down. For babies like that. Well, sometimes maybe it's okay, but oftentimes if you bring your angle at the same level of your object, especially for those objects that at the very low angle, you make your picture more engaging. You're at the same level, you're in their world. So for example, actually the flower on the left is the very first picture I took after I got my DSL camera. So I got excited. I went out and the first thing I saw was flowers, and I decided to take pictures of flowers, and they're so low. So I kneeled on the ground and took pictures of the flower. So when you take pictures of flower, you angle your camera and find a darker background, right? So the background, you can change your angle in any way, and a lot of times the background it's quite noisy, but if the same way as I played with exposure differences for the lotus flower, you can also play the exposure difference in this case. So in this case, why the background is so black? Because I saw a dark spot at one angle behind the flower. It's a shadow. So I used that as the background, and later on made it even darker. So in this way, with the blackest background, it's very clean. You can emphasize this flower and the texture. So, and on the right, this is a small lizard, actually quite tiny. And I almost on my on the ground, like holding my camera literally on the ground, and took this picture. And in this way, and in the lizard's world, and I'm seeing him at the same level as he sees the world. So in this way, you make your picture more engaging. And also, the lizard, after that, after you lower your angle and shoot at the same level as he is, I made him look like a dinosaur than a lizard. And also from this picture, you can see I also played the difference in exposure, right? There were a lot of lizard on the ground. I took this in Costa Rica. There were a lot of exotic lizards, and I don't just take my picture right away. I look for the one that I want. So I found this one because this one is hiding behind some leaves, and only one ray of light shines through the leaves and hit just on that particular lizard. So I can get a cleaner separation between the lizard and the background. So this is what I pick. So in this picture, you can see I played with different angle, and also I played with differences in exposure. So all those means just to get a good separation of your main subject and the background. This is your goal. You want a good separation. And this is another example. You can play with different positioning, different angle. So on the left, it's a picture I took in New York City, right? So when you go to the city, you shoot pictures probably just like that, right? This is what I normally shoot. But on that day, I decided to shoot from a different angle. So I started to shoot up, and this is what I got. And it looks quite different from what I used to shoot. So this just to tell you, sometimes just go crazy. Just try to shoot your picture from a completely different angle. You can try up, try down, try many different ways. And on the right, this is actually a pumpkin carving event in my workplace, you know, because our department have like a pumpkin carving composition. So a group of us, went into a room and just carve a pumpkin. And well, of course, I played the photographer and I shoot many pictures, and those are not, you know, like striking pictures. So I want to shoot something differently. So suddenly I got this idea. I put my cell phone inside the pumpkin, and I shoot blindly through the pumpkin like that. So this is a cell phone picture, even though, you know, the picture quality, as you can see, is not as good as a real DSL camera, but the idea make this picture really stand out. So this is what I want to tell you. Sometimes just go crazy, be creative, and shoot from different angles. Just try all kinds of angles, and you might surprise yourself. Okay, so we talk about focus on the main subject through composition, and there are many ways of doing the composition. You play less is more, you try different angle, different positioning. And the next point I want to deliver is using contrast. It could be many different ways of playing the contrast. And later on, I'm going to talk about how to focus on your subject through leading lines and framing. So let's talk about how to use contrast to really make your main subject stand out. So I'm sure you probably already take a lot of pictures like this. You play the contrast in color. I remember that when I went to buy TV for my house after moving, I saw that some TV are like $2,000 and some same size TV only like $400. So I asked the salesperson, what's the difference between the 2,000 and the 400 TV? Because they all look the same to me, right? So they told me that the $2,000 TV, actually the black, it's too black. Whereas the less expensive TV, the black is not too black, it's probably a dark gray. So I started to realize, oh, actually black become too black. It's very important because when the black is so black, so all the colors, all the other colors can be so vivid. That's so true for your TV quality. And it's also so true for your picture. So only the background or the rest of your main, the rest of the element in your picture in different color that can make your main color so vivid and so in focus. So you can play with the contrast in color to emphasize your main subject. So in this case on the left, this is a autumn picture, right? So I want to emphasize the color of fall. And I pick a place when there were, cloudy before storm, so it's so dark, and even the water is so dark. So using those dark colors in my picture, that I can emphasize the bright yellow color in my picture. And so is the picture on my right, because of the, the warm color of that building. That's the main color, that's the main subject I want to emphasize. So I make the rest of the rest of the color a contrasted color. So in that way, you can make your main subject stand out. And also, I actually already talked about this. You play with different exposure. You play with different luminosity, meaning the difference between dark and light, right? So you can play the, on the left, you can see, because the dark background, it makes the light spot really show. You can really see the texture of the feather, and on the right, because I want to emphasize the light when it's shine on the bronze wall of the 911 memorial, you have this fire effect. So I want to emphasize that. And at post-processing, I actually make the other part of the bronze wall really dark, and even the sky and the ground really dark, to really emphasize this fire effect. So this is what you can play, the differences in luminosity. Okay, I'm sure this is what you all know and use quite often. Is you use the contrast in depth of field to bring the focus on your main subject, right? So in the case of lotus flower, and this time I use shallow depth of field. And also emphasize this effect at post-processing. And on the right, this is what we usually do when we take portrait photography, right? You use very shallow depths of field. And for the portrait picture, well, because I'm a portrait photographer, I want to talk a bit more about how, I'm sure you take a lot of pictures, even for your family members, for event in your family. So how to like, where, at what angle you should take the portrait pictures, and if you bring your subject to a place where you, like, how you should find the spot to take the picture, at what angle. So I want to use the picture on the right as an example. So in this case, I was taking family portraits, right? A mom and 2 kids. And we went to a nearby park, and there's a small path. So I took some pictures there. Can someone tell me, like, if you go there in a park at a small walking path, like, where you normally take your pictures, at what angle? Or what do you think I took the pictures, at what angle, and what I want to achieve here?
It seems you crouched really low and took the angle from relatively low to the ground, so that you can have some foreground with the grass.
That's very good. Yes, this is what I want to achieve, because I will talk about later on the leading line. And this is even a portrait photography. I want to use the leading line, right? The path. And your eyes, if you make something blurry at the foreground, it leads you to something clear in the back. So I want to create this three-dimensional feeling, right? It's not two-dimensional. I don't just take a picture of this boy, just write on him. I want to create an effect with some sort of environment. That's why I put my camera really low. At the same level, you can see the grass here, right? You can see the grass, how low they are, right? They're probably just, oops. They're probably just a few inches tall. And those foreground grass is also a few inches tall. So I really make my shooting angle really low. And I found those grasses and use it as the foreground. In this way, you get the three-dimensional feeling. And also, can someone tell me the lighting?
You found the light to just shine straight down on your subject, so it really gives them a very brightening, almost ethereal glow.
Right. And also, you know, you guys probably already familiar with the lighting concept. I think no matter for portrait photography or for landscape photography, lighting, it's important, right? Not only the time of the day, we all know, you know, the best lighting is sunrise and sunset, but also the direction of the light, right? I think the best direction is backlighting. This is what I use the most. And oftentimes I also use side light, but I never use front light. So with this backlight, you have a glow, you have a good separation of your subject with the background. That's the effect I want. And also for portrait, with the backlight, they can open your eye. They can open their eyes. If front light, oftentimes they cannot open their eyes. So with the backlight, you not only have a good separation, you also have a good background, and also since the light is from the back, you don't have those hard shadows on their faces. So their skin is softer. You get more even lighting. So this is the light I often use. So this picture just shoot like that. I didn't even use any artificial lighting or softbox. I just take advantage of the natural light. Of course, the reason I brought them into the woods because I use those leaves from those tall trees as natural softbox, right? If you let them stand in the middle of like a playground, you wouldn't have this effect because the light would be too bright. Because I brought them into the woods, those trees, those leaves serve as a natural softbox and softens the light. Let only partial light seep through the leaves. So you don't have like too much contrast between the light and the dark. Okay. So we just talk about contrast in color, contrast in depth of field, and also you can play contrast in texture. So on the left, I took pictures of a baby. So you can use a lot of props, and I normally use the props of with texture because I want to emphasize their smooth skins. So this is also a way to play with contrast in texture, because the props you use, those are sort of textured rough material. You can feel how smooth their skin is. And the same for landscape photography, I want to emphasize the silkiness of the sand. That's why I included in the picture, you know, the rough mountains and the grasses at the foreground. So you have a comparison in this way through the rough and smooth contrast. I emphasize the smoothness of the sand. So this is a way you can play. Actually, contrast could be anything, as long as your main subject in some way is different from the other elements in your picture. So this is another example of a contrast. It's a contrast in size. I want to emphasize how tall those trees are. So I waited there for a person to come into my frame. And on the right, without the building, without the little house, you wouldn't know how tall this tree is. And I think this little house, it's essential in this picture, because then you can almost feel a conversation between this little house and the big tree. So this is a difference in size you can keep in mind when you want to focus on your main subject. Oftentimes when I go travel, I take travel pictures. A lot of people wait until like nobody's there, but I like to include some human subjects in my picture when I travel, because those human subjects actually plays a good role of a reference point. With those people, you know how big the structure is and how big the landscape is. So.
Hey, Cindy, the
Yes.
last picture, is that infrared photography? The tree and the house.
Yes. You're
It's
good.
very interesting, not like not like a regular black and white.
Right. Yeah. Infrared. It's another topic next time, I guess. Yeah. It's quite interesting. Black and white from infrared pictures gives you interesting contrast. It makes the sky almost completely black. So the regular converted black and white wouldn't have that effect. And also for anything live, trees, grasses, the whiteness, it's different.
Both picture look surreal because they're not like what we normally see.
Oh, the one on the left, it's
The fog.
Yeah. It's actually taken with regular camera. Okay, so this is another way to play with the contrast. It's through motion, right? And this is also a way to make your subject interesting. So you can take a picture at any intersection and just focus on a person and probably take a long shot, and so everything probably moving but your main subject. Or at train station, focus on one subject with the train passing by. So stuff like that will bring a lot more interest to your picture. Okay, so this is what I mentioned about using the leading line to bring attention to your main subject. Because our human eyes are used to look at where any pointer points, right? Either it's a finger or just anything resembles an arrow or a pointer. Your human eye will look in that direction. So this is how we can take advantage of leading lines to bring, to lead viewer's eye to your main subject. So in these two pictures, those leading lines are obvious, right? Road and also the visible lines on the bronze walls. And oops, here I'm showing you some not so obvious leading lines that you can keep in your mind when you take pictures. So on the left, I actually take advantage of the shape of the cloud. So I see that the cloud has that arrow effect or point to the lighthouse, because the lighthouse is my main object, even though it's so tiny, but I want your eyes to look at the lighthouse. So I use this arrow effect from the sky, and also I use the arrow effect on the ground. So I can stand anywhere, right? This is like a large area, but before I took the picture, I was looking for that perfect stone that can help me, can serve as a pointer to the lighthouse. So I saw this stone. This stone has a triangle shape, so it vaguely resembles an arrow. And this arrow also points to the lighthouse. So this is what I was looking for. So you can also keep this in mind when you take your picture. Try to find some natural pointer to point to your main subject. And also the pictures on the right, there's no path, nothing, and I want to bring attention to this little tree. Then I noticed light has a pathway. It actually lit up part of the grass, but not the surrounding grass. So I use this grass, like light lit pathway as the leading line to my main subject. So this is what you need to keep in mind when you take pictures. So sometimes you might be able to find some obvious leading line, but sometimes, maybe not that obvious, and you need to keep in mind, and sometimes need to purposefully look for those things that could serve as the leading line. Okay, so this is another way to bring attention to your main subject. This is to use framing. So your eyes tend to look at wherever there's a frame. It tends to look at what's in the frame. So on the left, I use the archway as a frame, and on the right, oops. On the right, I waited there for this monk to walk into the door, so I can use the door as a frame to frame a monk. So and when you take pictures of when you take pictures of your subject, either animal or human being, you can find those framing like structure and put them in there, and that can bring attention to your main subject. Okay, so we just, let's see, okay. So I just talked about how you can use composition, actually different ways of composition, to bring attention to your main subject. And I'm going to talk about like how can you build some story on top of your main subject. And in addition, how can you even build some mood, you know, add some drama to make your picture more artful and more interesting. So this is what you can do. I think even though you have a main subject, but you can build a story by letting your main subject have some sort of interaction or conversation with the secondary subject or with the rest of the subjects in your picture. So I think this is a way. I like to play a lot with shadows, because shadows, it's not that obvious. You're not directly taking picture of an object. You play with shadows. This makes it a bit more interesting than taking directly at something. So in this way, this is just the back door of a restaurant in my town, and I saw this shadow of the light above it, and I thought, oh, it's quite interesting. So I took this picture, and you can see even those are still pictures with, you know, still objects, but by playing with the shadow, you have some kind of story, you have some kind of, you know, interest here, and you know, there's a connection between the subject. And also on the right, this picture, if you only, of course, my main subject is those buildings, right? They're so pretty. So I played with, I used the skills I just talked about, right? I play with the contrast in color. I play with the contrast in luminosity. So my main subject has a different color, and it's also the brightest in the frame. And I also want to include some foreground. And I think what's good about this picture, if I cut the stones in the front, it's probably okay, but I think it will be more interesting to include the stones and also include the light reflection, the color on the stones, because in this way you can connect the stones with the with your main subject, because it shows the lighting, right? The sunset light, and the color on the stone also reflect the light. So there's a crosstalk between those two objects. It will make your picture more sophisticated and you know, have more elements. Okay, lighting, we talk about a lot of lighting already, right? I touched that earlier, and this is just to show that, you know, backlighting always good. So if you can always try to use backlighting, side lighting, it's good too, but backlighting, it's always more dramatic in both landscape and also portrait photography. But again, when you play with backlighting, sometimes it's too bright, you know, the difference in exposure is too much. So on the left, when I take the picture, I took several pictures, you know, like with different exposure, because otherwise the brightest spot here, oops, the brightest spot here, it's overexposed. So I actually merged the pictures at post-processing to make it in this way. And on the right, you need to be careful if your main subject on their face is too dark, you need to add some artificial light. I think in this case, I probably added flashlight on the side to make her face a little brighter. Okay, so this is another example of lighting. Oftentimes when you take pictures, when you take portrait pictures, you probably wouldn't find the perfect timing, right? So when you take picture of your kids, you know, they might not want to go out with you at sunrise or sunset, right? Or when you take pictures of your guests, they probably come, you know, during bright sunlight or a bad day. So oftentimes you cannot find the perfect timing. So because I'm a wedding and event photographer, a lot of weddings, you know, bad weather. So for example, this one, it's at almost the worst day, you know, raining, cloudy, you know, throughout the day. But you can take advantage of the ways you know and the tools that you can use to make the bad day a good day. So in this case, it was raining, it was dark, but I use artificial light. I put one light in the back, and I put another light at the front at the 45-degree angle. And with the artificial light, I freeze the raindrops. So this actually give a very dramatic effect, actually turned out really good. They ended up putting this picture at their invitation letter because they like it so much. And they told me, you know, it's very unique because oftentimes people put a picture, you know, like in a sunny day, and nobody had a wedding picture like this. So that's why they like it so much. So I want to tell you that, you know, you can play with lighting in many different ways. It doesn't have to be perfect, and even when the weather's not perfect, you can make your picture still be perfect.
Cindy, did you use a speed light, a flash, or did you use a strobe light for this particular picture?
I use flash, actually. I use a speed light, yeah.
Ah, thanks. So
Yeah.
did you have a like a support for the light, or do you
Oh,
have
yeah,
an assistant?
yeah. Especially the one in your back, I put it on a stand.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I actually put both on the stand because I hardly use on-camera speed light. I only use on-camera speed light when I take event pictures, because then I need to move around. I cannot have like holding two stands with me all the time. But for those wedding pictures, I usually, you know, put them on the stand. I normally use one in the back so they can have, you know, the edge effect. Oops. And the front one, I normally put it at an angle, not right on my camera, so they can have some kind of definition on their face. Okay, so this is some other way you can build your story. You can add some drama. So I took this picture just in a small park, like nothing, you know, special, but it was really quiet afternoon, and I felt like a fairy tale. So later on at post-processing, I made it look like a fairy tale. So this is all about photography. Photography is not really what you see. It's really what you want people to see. So this is not what I actually saw. You know, the leaves not that red. I actually made it. I changed the color. I made it so red, and the light rays, you know, through the fog, it was a little bit, not that strong. I made it, you know, more obvious. So this is what you can do at post-processing to make your picture look like what you want it to look like. And of course, you know, before you take the picture, you take advantage of the natural effect, right? So for us photographers, bad weather, it's always good for us, right? Whenever I see, you know, cloud, fog, you know, snow, rain, I go out. This always drives my family crazy, you know. When it's like sunshine, you know, cloudness, and everyone wants to go out. I see no cloud and it's too much sunshine. I was, no, I don't want to go out. So, okay. Okay, so this is another example. You can add drama to your picture and you know, tell some sort of a story. I think for landscape photography, cloud is your best friend. I normally don't go out for any landscape photography without cloud. When I see some dark clouds, I go out. And this time I got lucky because right after I got there, you know, there was a storm, so I took this picture. But oftentimes, you know, if you don't get lucky, well, cloud is easy to come by, but oftentimes, you know, the other natural things are not that easy to come by, but you can create post-process level. So for instance, in this picture, I took it after the snow, but then I added the snow at post-processing. So it adds a lot of drama. You can find a lot of snow effect on the internet. Oops. Oh. So this is another example I want to show you that even though, you know, the weather's not good, you can artificially create some drama. So this is the same wedding I was talking about, right? And later on rained. That's how I took the rain picture. And during the day, it was dark, no sun. So I used artificial light to lit them up. I also played with a prop to add drama. I bought a probably 30 feet long, what do you call that, trail, and I let her hold one end, and I hold on the other end. I take the picture like that. So I artificially create this drama. Not only you know, this, I also use this as a leading line. So oftentimes, you know, you're just gonna be creative and try different means. Sometimes the weather probably not that cooperating, but you can use other means to still achieve your the effect that you want. So for me, since I'm doing, you know, commercial shooting, a lot of weddings, you know, at bad days, and a lot of events at bad hours, but I can actually take picture as any day and any time of the day. It just use different ways. Like if I take picture at sunrise and sunset, of course that's perfect. I don't need any tools, just take pictures like that. But if at bad days or you know, bright sunshine, you know, I find shady areas to place my subject. I use artificial light and I use a lot of props, you know. So this is just for wedding. If I take family pictures, I bring a lot of props to make the kids run, you know. They wouldn't stand still, and even if they do, they don't look good. So you need to let them play. So I always let them play with something, and then I take pictures. So a lot of ways you can play and make your portrait photography a lot more lively.
Hey,
So
Cindy,
yeah.
in this picture, did you use wide angle lens to really enhance the effect?
Yes. Yes, this particular one I did, but I also used just the regular, you know, 24 to 70, and it's about the same actually, because I was holding the trail right in front of me, you know, so you get that leading line effect anyway, because the trail, it's so close to me. And oftentimes you don't want your subject to be too small because they're not that far from me, so it's okay. I can't remember what if I use 24 or 15. I might use 24, not really super wide lens. I think it's 24 because I don't want my subject to be too tiny. So you can create this effect by holding your foreground object really close to you without using super wide angle lens. Okay, so that's the end of my slides. Do you guys have questions? I hope you get something from my presentation.
Thank you, Cindy. Lots of very creative ideas. Really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you so much. I'm glad.
Thank you, Cindy. I got some good tips too. I want to try tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay, nice. That's great. Yeah, glad to hear.
Great
So
lecture, Cindy. I have a question. How did you add the snow in that girl's picture?
I found like a plugin of the sort. I can send you. I can't remember where I found it because it's a plugin in my Lighthouse, and so I can just click
Lightroom.
add it. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's
very real.
yeah, not that I created. Somebody else created, and by clicking that plugin, it adds a layer, and you can add many layers, and I just, you know, add some layers and probably arrange them and erase some part and to make it perfect. Yeah. Because I tried in real snow, it's kind of tricky. Not all snow look the same. Some snow can give you those effects, you know. Oftentimes the snow doesn't give you those effects. It's just too tiny.
Yeah, lots of color look like noisy.
Yeah, I found these artificial ones actually more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Great. Anybody else have questions?
or something you want to learn or to know next time, you know? Yeah, I wish we could know your background, you know, before the class, so I can prepare the slides more geared to your needs. You know, it's hard to do it without knowing you. Yeah.
I'd love to see some more post-processing work, like how you actually went through the steps to do, for instance, this photo with using that overlay of the snow.
Oh, sure, sure.
You're editing a photo.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. I taught post-processing classes before.
I just always pick something up every time I watch something like that. I always learn one new trick, and that's all I need.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And
Yeah, picking up pearls one at a time.
If you get hit with too much information all at once, you won't retain it all anyway. I want to go out and play with using a trail right there by my camera, like you did in the last wedding photo. See how I can use that as an effect somehow. I think that was really neat.
I bought I think I bought on eBay a long trail of 30 feet.
It just looks so neat. I would have never thought to incorporate where I'm actually helping direct the scene by holding something in the photo. That's really a great idea.
Yeah. So if there's no leading line, you create a one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I bring one. I bring my own leading line.
I have a general question.
Okay.
So I like to travel every time when I travel to some of the, say, famous place like a Banff or something. Usually people say, oh, we had to go to here, go to there, because those are the must photograph location. And I try to avoid that. The reason is when I see something, then I go there, I will repeat. And I will never be able to do as good as the photograph before, right? So what's the best trick if you're going to a place? Are you prepared to go to a certain place to take, or you just go there, look around and be creative, just take the shots? Do you do some study prior to take picture?
Yes, I do study just to know where is the best spot to take pictures, because if I go somewhere like, you know, if I go to Banff, right? So from a tourist point of view, they pick different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
We photographer probably pick like the places tourists pick and the places photographers pick are different, right? So that's why I don't want to miss any places, right? Sometimes, you know, that's why before going anywhere, I like to Google, you know, like best spot, best photo ops in where and where, right, in a place. So I know from the photographer's point of view where I should go. But when I'm at that spot, I try not to take the same picture. I try to take my own picture. How do I, you know, change the angle? How can I find a different way to take that famous picture, right? And I found that at the very beginning, when I take landscape pictures, I'm excited to go to those famous places, right? And I have a consumption that if I go to those famous places, I will take beautiful pictures. But after a while, I realized it's not the place that make my picture better. It's me, you know. The places actually oftentimes make me stuck in the stereotype, you know. So I realized what makes me a good photographer, it's me. So later on, I'm not so keen on go to a famous place, a famous landmark, because those famous landmark, you know, Eiffel Tower or whatever, you know, taken pictures by so many people. It's really hard to find your unique angle, you know. Whatever you think about, people already thought about it. And so many people there, right? And so I realized a lot of pictures actually taken just at the places around me. So I still go travel because I simply like travel, you know, but I don't have high hopes on my travel pictures. I don't, you know, I don't think travel makes my picture better. I think actually a lot of places around me have the condition to make my pictures better, because I can go to, I'm familiar with the places around me. Two, since they're so close by, I can go there at any given day. I can go there at many times, right? So if you go travel, if you go to one place, you probably only stay at that place for one day, right? And if that day you get lucky, the weather's good, you have cloud, you know, you probably make good pictures. But if on that particular day the weather's bad, you probably, you know, not gonna have a good picture, right? So for the places around me, I get to go there many times, right? So I took a lot of picture at the Liberty State Park because it's only half-hour drive from me, and I think it's beautiful because I have the, you know, I have a variety of things I can take pictures of. So whenever I see a storm is coming, I'm on my way to Liberty State Park, right? So you probably can find a lot of spots around you, and you can go there many times. When it snows, you drive there. When it rains, you drive there, you know. So that allow you to go there many times and waited for the good moment to happen. So those moments actually make more good pictures than the landmarks. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Usually you take the best picture around, but we all like to travel. So
Yeah.
whenever I travel, I want to take full advantage, take thousands of pictures.
Me too.
I have two types of travel. One type is I go with somebody, like a guide. Somebody will tell us where to go, all pre-schedule, and that's easy. You don't need to think. You just go there and take pictures. The other type is go with families, friends, and we focus on the social side, not as much as sightseeing. Or sometimes on business trip, we are just going to business. And then on the weekend, we happen to be on the castle or something. So I just take a small camera and take picture here and there. So I was trying to think, should I study prior to go, or should I go there? But what you're saying make perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you have a family trip, don't have high hopes on photography. Just enjoy your time with your family, you know.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was hard to get up in the morning for sunrise pictures. So sunset, it's my prime time, right? But if I go out with my family, whenever it's sunset, they're hungry. They need to go into a restaurant, right? So there's always conflict. So just forget about your pictures. Just go to enjoy your dinner with your family, you know, and go to your separate photography trip with your photography friends. Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah, that's my plan now going forward.
Unless you can convert your family member or become, you know.
Not so easy. It's hard enough to ask them to be the model.
A combination of lots of approaches. You probably need to study ahead of time a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, to get to a good sunset photo, you probably need to get to the site a little earlier, you know, not at the sunset moment. Probably get there like an hour ahead of time and kind of like scouting the area and try to choose the best position for the camera. Because the moment the lighting, you know, light comes, it goes very quickly.
Right? That is true. Yeah.
Go around and see the best spot, and then you wait it there.
Yeah. So for the purpose of, if we travel for photography purposes, it's nice to have a group of people have the same interest. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Everybody's hungry, and you say, "Oh, wait, the sun is not done."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the best picture I ever took is in my backyard because I have a lake, all kind of birds, everything flying. So you're correct. You can wait there for any time and take
Yeah.
many pictures. Finally, you will catch good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Patient.
About the
Yeah.
time, anybody else have questions? So I'd like to thank Cindy again. Great to hear all the good tips about making an artistic photo.
Excellent.
Hope,
Thank you for having
in the
me.
future we can have more sessions about post photo processing. Okay. Everybody have a good night and stay safe. Okay.
Thank you. You
Nice
Thank
too.
Thank
meeting you
you.
guys.
Thank you, Cindy.
Bye.
Meeting you and have a great long weekend.
You too.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Care.